and welcome to Business Eye. It's Friday. You know something strange? I'm going to ask you something, right? I got a phone call this morning, and the phone call was from a gas provider, and they said to me, "Hello, we're just ringing you up to say that your contract is running out, and we'd like to offer you, a discount." And they gave me the details of the discount, and I says, "Is that a discount?" And he says, "Yeah." I said, "Of what I have already?" No, that's a discount of the price that you will get if you don't sign up with the contract. And I went, if I don't sign up with you and go to someone else, it's not really a discount. The discount is usually of what I'm normally paying, and you give me a price off that. Yeah. And they went, yeah. I says, well, could you please let your marketing board know that actually I think that's a bit wrong, your approach on it. So they went, yeah, thank you. So that was my little rant for today. But my wife has gone off, kind of, believe it or not, to a Christmas party today as well.
Wow.
Well, yes, it's that time of year.
A bit early.
It'll be Easter before we know it.
A bit early. So, tell us what's happening today.
So we've got a great guest coming in, and then I think, Joe, you and I are going to have a chill chat about what motivates us and drives us in the second half. So that'll be fun and a bit scary. So our guest is it's Kevin Henry, isn't it?
Yep, that's right.
Kevin Henry, and you founded and run what's called the Pension Store.
That's right.
So that excites me and scares me because I've still got some things to do with my pension. So welcome anyway.
Thank you very much. Yeah, look, pensions tend to be a topic that kind of scare and I suppose put a lot of people off. It's not the most exciting topic in the world, but it's certainly an important one.
Yeah, it's funny, and the reason why I asked you in as well, Kevin, is it's that time of the year where people start to really take a check of how the year has been and what are they going to be doing next year. And myself, at that young age of 25, and you're what, in your...
I was 12.
12. I remember starting my pensions, I think was in my 30s. It was a good idea at the time. Yeah. But a lot of people feel, oh my God, I'm taking this money out of my monthly income, which I need to survive, but they're forgetting about that big picture on it. And there is the scary thing. And I'm sure all the major big loan and pension companies now are sending these letters out to people at the moment at this time of the year and going, this is how much you've paid, and at this amount that you've paid, this is what you'll get when you retire at 65, and it could be from 800 quid a year to 10,000. And people don't realise that you need, what is it, 60, 70,000 when you're retired? Depending on your lifestyle that you have. What do we do? Do you give people a shake?
Well, I think, look, you touched on one of the big things there, which I suppose in relation to pensions, it's very much a case of delayed gratification. So I suppose it's a case of using your income now in terms of the bigger picture, as you said. But it's quite hard for people to see that bigger picture when it can be in a lot of cases so very far away. But it is a kind of a case of either making a sacrifice now or regretting it later on when you get there. But I suppose you did touch on a positive aspect of it as well, is that certainly for people who are self-employed or business owners, if they have had a good year, it's the ideal way to reward yourself, because it's the best way for kind of money to transfer out from whatever business entity you're in the most tax efficient manner.
Instead of that sports car that I've been looking at.
Well, there's nothing wrong with having a sports car if you can afford it, Joe. But again,
save the pension first.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, it does come down to it's not the most exciting thing in the world. There's an awful lot of better things that people can do with their income now, but it is all about looking at the bigger picture.
It's funny when you hit 50. I'm 2 years past it, and Joe, you're about 10 years away from it, I think. But when you get to 50, your mind definitely flips into the pension zone.
Yeah, there are certain life events that can happen. So in financial services, the two things that we would talk about the most are the impact of people dying or retiring. And it's only really if somebody who's close to you or that has died, or you do, as you say, reach one of those ages where you could be turning 50 or you're in your mid-50s, that the pension area becomes really, really relevant.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing, right? Here is my opinion on it. You ready?
I'm ready for this.
People believe there's this whole unspoken mindset that goes through people's heads. I put my saving into the bank. The bank who give me sweet
Lose
FA,
it.
interest rate.
Yeah.
I put that money in, or do I get that money and put it into a pension?
Yeah.
And that pension then gives me a better return than my savings. But then they have this mental block of going, but if I'm giving it to this big company, they're taking their commission, and their commission is 80% more. There is this fear on it.
Yeah.
So it's really it's education, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really?
it is. One of the big things as well, so charges typically get a huge amount of press because it's very, very relevant. The two biggest things that impact the kind of final pension fund value you arrive with are the decisions you make all throughout your career and the charges that you pay on any particular plan that you have. So both of those things are the two things that impact what you retire with ultimately. But charges are very, very relevant. But I guess certainly when you're talking about the tax advantages, any money that you put into a pension fund is gross of tax. So if you're putting £1,000 a month or £500 a month or whatever into a pension fund, you would have the opportunity maybe to take that as income of 300 instead of 500 going into a pension fund. So again, it's not glamorous, but it's all about trying to paint the picture long term. As to how valuable all the tax reliefs are.
How did you get into this space? Like, this is not your original background, is it?
Well, I worked in the food industry, believe it or not, in a marketing capacity for about 3 or 4 years, and that was in my mid-20s. I took a bit of a 3-month trip around the world on my own in 2005, and then when I came back, I joined Irish Life as a pensions consultant. So I've been in this particular industry now since 2005.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I nearly got into the whole pension industry in my 20s. I remember going for an interview, and I didn't do it because it was commission only. Because remember in those days it was pushing out. But like I know I'm worth more now dead than I'm alive. Thank you. And my wife looks at me oddly as she puts something called cyanide in the dinner.
Well, your advisor is looking after you well if you're worth more dead. That's the whole point of financial planning.
So and what I laugh at the monthly payment of my everything goes up. But it's not I don't think it's stat index for the amount that happens when I go up as well, which is I thought it was, and that's one thing that I've learned, that if I'm doing something now, I make sure that it's stat indexed, so the value of it's going up as well.
So what about people like, I mean, I mentioned before I came back from Australia 3 years ago, and in Australia you have what are called superannuation funds. Yeah. And they're more kind of investment vehicles where if you have some spare cash, you just literally pay it into the fund and it's locked, and then you can start taking it out from the age of 50. Yeah. So it seemed quite easy there. And Australia, I think, has the highest pension savings rate per capita
coverage in the world.
It's an amazing industry there. Yeah. And then we moved back here, and I just assumed you could do the same. But I was told basically that you can only put into a pension what you earn. You can't just put a lump sum in. But you're saying that you can?
Well, it depends on your setup. So if you own a limited company, you have a huge amount of flexibility to do to make contributions.
But if it's just you personally,
you can't
just put a lump sum in.
Well, you can. But it is going to be a percentage of your income, and the income amount is capped. So the model in Australia is very, very clean. There's very few products on the market over there, and it's very, very consumer friendly. In Ireland, it's almost the complete opposite.
Why is that? Is it because of financial problems in the past, or why is it so different?
It's just been with rule changes that have come in over the years, like you're going back 40 or 50 years. Yeah. There's just been different rules have been brought in, different allowances have been introduced, and when that happens, if legislation changes, they try to piecemeal different products into the market to try and fit the gap that's there. Yeah. So now
it's like a mosaic rather than a clean sweep. Yeah.
Exactly. So now there's a huge agenda at the moment called pension simplification, where they're trying to get rid of a huge amount of products that are on the market. But that creates its own huge problem as well.
Another big piece of the mosaic.
Huge one, yeah.
But why? What happened many moons ago that now makes people fearful? there's obviously a story that happened to your dad, or there was people who put into pension funds and they collapsed, and there was always a security of the government pension. Like, where did it all go wrong that it created this fear and doubt in people's minds? Is there
I think the way the industry is, has a lot to do with that. Like, financial services would be about the least trusted industry in the world. So when you hear stories then again of half of somebody's pension fund disappearing because of a stock market crash or because of charges or whatever it is, people are obviously going to feel a little bit nervous approaching it. I mean, you wouldn't approach somebody that you don't think you can trust, especially with your money. So pensions certainly suffer from an image problem, and I guess that's the approach that I took with my website, to try and maybe put a bit of a different spin on it.
Yeah.
Do you believe, the pensions will be a huge problem in the next decade for a strain on the government, because are people now making that investment? I know it's the government have made it that people have to pay.
Well, they've said that they're going to make people pay, but this is with the auto-enrollment scheme like they have in the UK.
That's right, yeah.
Now, that has been introduced and is quite seamless over there. It had its own teething problems, but we are a slightly different market, and for them to actually have a government in place long enough to see this agenda through is unlikely.
Because I heard the three models in the auto-enrollment were New Zealand, Australia and the UK.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's the political landscape here that makes it harder to entrench a sustainable pensions market?
Yeah. So there's been an auto-enrollment agenda going back since early 2000s that they wanted coverage to increase dramatically. That's why they brought out PRSAs. But no government has really been in power long enough, or the political will hasn't been there long enough to actually see it through. And then as soon as something comes up that's more urgent, the pensions agenda just gets thrown away. So it doesn't get the attention that it needs. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, to be honest.
There's the other thing then as well. Like, I mean, my father-in-law, who unfortunately passed away.
Everyone has a story with pensions.
But he was on a really, really healthy, massive final salary pension because he was a civil servant in Ireland back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, etc. And then, so he was getting, more than most people earn in an income through his pension.
Yeah.
And then 2008 came and it was basically halved, But even though it was halved, it was still more than most people are earning in their income. And he was in a nursing home for 3 years, earning this nice wad of cash from a pension.
Yeah.
And that can't be sustainable. How does the country afford to pay that?
Well, they can't anymore. So they're defined benefit pension schemes. So they are a kind of a relic of the 60s and 70s now.
Yeah. They've been phased out of it.
Yeah, they are massively, because they can't. They are literally unsustainable.
Damn.
So, yeah. If anyone has one of them, they've done very, very well.
But there's the whole thing. The whole thing about pensions it was always, if you got a job as a civil servant, they are the pensions, the cushy numbers.
And stay there and don't go.
And stay there. And that's it. It's like your mother when you were, leaving school, says, get a job in the bank, because you're in the bank for life. This was, ingrained in you. Yeah. But what is happening? Like, there's people, there's young people who want to get pensions, but they're going and they're filling out mortgage applications, and the mortgage applications are refusing them because they have an outgoing of a pension.
It certainly used to be the case that if you were applying for a mortgage and you could demonstrate a track record of saving, it used to work in your favour. Yeah. So I don't necessarily know.
But that it's, and where people, when they're going for, we all know stories of people who are applying for mortgages and they want to leave their job, but they can't leave their job and they have to stay till they get the approval and everything and all. Like, it's on the sheets. But is it just as easy as going, okay, this is how much I want to earn when I'm 65, and if I pay X amount in every month to a certain date, this is what I'll get? Kind of, yeah. So I suppose, like, the calculator that's on my site is done exactly like that. It's kind of goal-based planning. Okay. So you can kind of fill in your details and you'll see a kind of target fund that's there for you, and then you can work back. So, like, the journey, depending on how long it is, could be 30 or 40 years. So what you're looking for is pensions invest in a tax-free environment. So anytime you get growth year after year, all that growth compounds. So it is as easy as saying, okay, if you want to earn ballpark X amount per month when you retire,
then you work it back and say, this is what you would need to start investing into a pension each month at this assumed rate of return. Yeah. And you just now, nothing goes in a straight line, but that's generally the gist of how you would do it.
What is the government pension? Is it 200 quid a week or something, is it? Or?
Yeah, it's about 12.5 grand a year. Nearly 13 grand a year.
It's one of the higher ones in Europe, though, isn't it? It's much higher than the UK,
yeah. And if you're a married couple now with a dependent spouse, you get 24 grand, nearly 24.5 grand. Tax-free.
And that's not means tested? Or is it means tested?
It will be. It is means tested.
Okay.
Yeah. The state pension is based on your contributions, your stamps essentially. So no, if you've paid your stamps, you're entitled to the state pension.
So I wonder if you're self-employed, what's the pension then? Or do you just have to work up? Or is it you have to work? Is it 10 years or 12 years and collect stamps and then you qualify?
It's all based on your stamps. It's going to a total contribution model now, which is going to make it a lot fairer because of the scandal that was brought out about the inequitable treatment of women losing out on their state pension entitlement. So that's all been changed.
So for example, someone like me, I've worked 20 odd years as an employee in 3 different countries, UK, Australia, here. So I think they're all compatible. I think they're all scooped up together.
You'll be entitled to a UK state pension.
Yeah, you would
actually. But what about Australian and Irish?
Yeah.
Or do you just get the one?
You'll be entitled to an English and...
You would be entitled to an English. If you have a UK state pension, you'll be entitled to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you have your stamps in Ireland, you'll be entitled to an Irish state pension.
Okay. And then now, like Joe, I'm self-employed. So the advice I got from my accountant 3 years ago was just I think I'm on category S. So I pay the minimum amount salary to myself to make sure I pay the minimum stamp. And my understanding is it's not the value of the PRSI you pay each month. It's just the fact that you make a contribution.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like somebody who's paying a huge PRSA contribution is being penalised because they still get the same state pension as somebody who pays a small amount. Or am I being naive?
No, that's one of the anomalies with being self-employed. Being self-employed is one of the toughest things because you pay the highest rates of PRSI, you pay the highest rates of USC. It's just one of those things. So anytime that I meet somebody who's self-employed, I would kind of say to them, is there any way that you can trade as a limited company? Because as a limited company, you pay less tax, and in terms of your pension contribution options, you've
So that's what I've done, limited company.
But it won't matter when you're living in the Cayman Islands. Do you know that?
Right.
But do you know what? The one thing that I have realised in life, if you don't have a mortgage and you don't have car payments and you're just living at home and your mortgage is paid off, you can actually live on 300 quid a week.
Oh, you can.
You can. You can. You really can.
Because...
And you can still afford a couple of weekends away. It's amazing
You don't need to. You know,
I agree.
The bulk of all our incomes goes out on mortgages.
Yep.
It goes out on people who are paying rent, and they go if you just...
But a huge amount of it goes out on tax as well.
On tax as well,
and that's the big thing. So you're trying to shelter any of your income, as much of your income from tax as possible, and pensions are by far and away the best way to do that.
Yeah.
Kevin, we're just going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask you the big why. Why did you get into this and set up your own business?
Okay.
You're listening to Joe Dalton on Dublin South FM, community radio with a global audience.
Everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.
And welcome back to Business Eye. Kevin, just before the break, I was asking you a question. Why? Why did you decide to get in and do your own business, start your own business?
Well, I guess I came from a very corporate background, which meant you were very restricted in terms of what you could and couldn't do. So I did ultimately want the freedom to be able to offer a proper market service to a client. Again, as we were talking during the break, people don't like pensions. People don't trust the pensions industry. So it's not a topic that people like talking about. It's a topic that I love talking about, which I don't really know what that says about me. But
it says you're probably a linear thinker and you're organised.
But you're passionate about it.
Passionate. Really. It doesn't matter what subject it is. If you're passionate about it, you're passionate about it.
Yeah, I suppose people find it very, very complicated. I find it very easy because I've done it for a long time. And again, depending on what kind of situation you're dealing with, it's in a lot of ways it's creative problem solving because you're trying to find a solution for somebody. You have to be always aware of the rules and parameters and limits that exist, and you're just trying to find the ultimate outcome.
What was the frustration that you kind of went, okay, I'm going to go out and do this and is it noble about it or honourable that I'm going to try and really get people to understand about their pensions?
Yeah, so I guess like the reason I got my award was for the calculator that I built. So normally, for somebody to actually understand how a pension works, they'd have to read through pages and pages of text, trying to work out percentages and whatever. So what's on the site is basically a financial review for a pension. So if you wanted to actually see exactly what a pension can do for you, whether you're a PAY employee, self-employed, or a company director, you can just go on, put in all your details, and that's exactly. So as we were talking about earlier on, it will kind of give you an idea as to what your end picture can look like, and it'll work back the steps then per month. This is what you would need to be doing.
I'm going to actually do this weekend.
You should do. You should do. It took
really?
a long time to build.
Don't be
There's a lot of
texting
value
me
in it.
now on Sunday
telling
morning,
you, you're
crying. Going, shit.
Yeah. It's because I've just got pension statements in, my wife has, and you're right. You get a wad of papers that thick, right? And most of it's gobbledygook, right?
Does anybody read them?
No.
I do, and that's the thing. So I read them for people.
And the formula, there's all these formulas and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, I'm well educated, reasonably well, but I've never got to the end, right? So if you've created some sort of calculator thing, that's just so valuable.
I think there's so many different laws and rules that are involved in pensions that like, a lot of advisors would find them extremely tricky as well. So for the general public who are like entrusting and investing in these things, they do need to be informed. It's very, very easy to make mistakes with pensions. People kind of gloss over the things that are important, like charges. Charges pay a huge impact on your.
Well, what I'm trying to get at is just steering back to the reason why. It's a very competitive industry.
Yeah.
You have all the big companies in there as well. So what was your... I'm homing back into this. What was your... Okay, I'm going to take on these big guys. So you're like, Goliath. There's Goliath in the room, and you come in with your, with your stone. When you're doing that, you have to really jump in and shake up the industry on it. And that's why I'm jumping back to that question which on it was it kind of going, okay, I can take these guys on?
Yeah, I always wanted to do my own thing, and as I said, I always felt that having the freedom to be able to offer a solution that's there on the market was something that I wanted to do. It's something that I always wanted to do. In terms of being able to take on everybody else, I guess the reason why I won my All-Star Award is because like the committee ring your clients and they get testimonials from them. So I can only do what I do for them because I have my own business, and that's always what drove it.
There's the other side of this, though, which maybe, Joe, you're getting at, is that I'd say a lot of people think, along with lawyers, tax people, tax collectors, traffic wardens, pension people don't trust pension people, right?
Yeah,
That's kind of
absolutely.
perception out there. So is part of what you're doing is to be the person that people genuinely trust.
He's very well dressed for
he is, isn't he?
For someone who's pensions as well. I have to say, very
Well,
dapper.
Is that important to you, to be trustworthy and for people
Absolutely. Like that's the number one thing you can be. So I guess that's why I put so much effort into what I built, because I wanted to make pensions attractive for people and help people understand them without actually having to meet with me or meet with anybody.
Yeah.
That's its whole point for being there.
When you developed the calculator, was that something that you're going, okay, great, and how long did it take you to develop it?
It took about 10 months.
Yeah.
As I say, there's a lot of rules and parameters. Like there's a couple of hundred formulas in there. There's parameters all over the place. So everything has to be compliant with central bank, with revenue, with the pensions board.
So did
There's
you
a
have
huge
to get
amount.
licensed or regulated to do
No,
it?
I had to dig through the pensions manuals and find out all the different laws before.
Glad he's
before
done
I
it,
could
not
launch
us.
it. So that's why it's there.
My eyes would be bleeding. We like it,
I like the high level.
I like that
fancy
detail, though.
I like the fancy strategy, creative stuff, but the
Yeah.
detail.
Bit of garden as well.
Well, I had another guy who was kind of the marketing guy who kind of made it more palatable and kind of jazzed it up a bit, just in terms of what you see. But underneath it is where I was kind of buried in the kind of data and just working out all the maths and everything else. That's where I was.
Quick thing, we've about 5 minutes left. What sort of advice would you give someone who has a pension or who's looking to get a pension? Like, give us some some tips and tools which you would recommend.
The best thing you
apart
can
from
do-
going to your site, because you can tell them to.
Absolutely. But the best thing you can do is just get advice. I suppose to kind of give you a quick story, the people who would have done really, really badly between 2008 and 2014, when everything kind of went the way it did, were the people who stopped investing in pensions, because they would have seen this as throwing good money after bad. They put money in 1 year and then the next year it's worth half, and they would stop altogether. Whereas the people who took advantage of that because they would have taken advice from an advisor who would say, look, the price of your shares are now half the price of what they were last year. Now's the very time where you should be buying more. Trying to ignore the noise that's out there in the media and the market that are trying to sell papers. Is to just... Financial planning is a numbers game. That's it. It's all about percentages. And you have big ones and small ones. And if you know how to win those percentages, you will do very, very well. And you just need to get advice for any decision you make. So that the number one tip is just get advice.
Get advice. Be cautious, as in, do you have to really look at, okay, what can I really afford this month? I mean, there's people out there who are in, paying PRSI, paying tax, they're employed with someone, they have the mortgage, they have everything else going. Is it really looking at, okay, I know you want to put this in, but you really can only afford to put this in?
Yeah, everyone needs to work to a budget to some degree, but I guess the big thing is that where people kind of feel uncomfortable, I guess, is that you do need to take a degree of investment risk in order for your money to grow over time, because you have inflation, for one thing, that needs to be overcome. So a lot of people then would feel uncomfortable because they're just used to saving money in a bank account, and then they're starting to invest in equities or stocks and shares or whatever it might be. And you do have to go up a significant degree of risk in order to get that return. So that does put people off as well, but it's vital that people do that, because, as I say, inflation will just eat the value of your money, and it's a long-term investment project as well. So again, you just need to get advice. You need somebody to explain to you. Certainly long-term, and if you're younger, you need to be front-loading the amount of risk that you take. But again, you won't get that from a book. You will get that by sitting down with somebody who knows what they're talking about.
That's true. It's very important on it. Kevin, if someone wants to connect with yourself or use the calculator and then set up an appointment, where can they reach you? www.thepensionstore.ie, or you can just Google The Pension Store. I come up number one on that. And you're on LinkedIn as well?
I'm on LinkedIn. Kevin Henry is the name.
On LinkedIn as
on
well?
LinkedIn, yeah.
And is there an email address or anything? Or?
It's kevin@thepensionstore.ie.
There we go.
Nice and easy. Yeah.
Nice and easy on it.
I'm definitely going to look at this weekend. Probably tonight.
Well, let me know how you think of it. As I say, it's there to kind of give you a sort of crystal clear view as to what it is, what it would take to do it.
I'm probably going to talk to you again.
There we go. Good on it.
Thanks,
Kevin,
Joe.
Thanks for coming in. Thank you for coming in. We're going to take a quick break. Just before we take that break, Simon, you and me are just talking in the afternoon. What do you want to talk about in the second half? Do you want to talk sales, marketing, leadership? I actually negotiation as well. I want to get on, because we spoke many times, but we never really spoke on negotiation.
And what we do and why we're doing
what we do.
What
do we do?
Yeah,
what do we do? Drink coffee. Drink coffee. Kevin, thank you very much for coming in. And
Thanks,
folks, we'll see you after the break.
You're listening to Joe Dalton on Dublin South FM, community radio with a global audience.
And welcome back, folks, to Business Eye. This afternoon, I decided to interview Simon. So everyone
Heaven help us all.
Simon,
I'm going to interview you back as well.
Okay, well,
so you're not off the hook.
Then we can arm wrestle. No, the reason why I wanted to do this on the second half was because you're the deal closer, but the name the deal closer isn't really about the deal closing. It's more about negotiation, really. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's I'm kind of pivoting away from being described as the deal closer to driving growth.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So driving growth through the prism of through four boxes: business growth, which includes deals, negotiation, sales, all that stuff. Then leadership growth. And then brand growth, because I do a bit of work in that. And then finally, personal growth, right? The personal growth is the stuff that kind of brought you and me together, is the stuff that really sits behind, in my view, it sits behind all of those hard-nosed business, brand, deal, sale. It's all about the personal side of things. So my new website's about to come out, and it's about driving growth. But I'm still doing the deal making, the negotiation programs, and it's all about growth.
Yeah, I think your business, as you go along, you start off in the first year doing something. Yeah. In the first 3 years, it meanders into something of what it is, and then as it goes along, you sort of keep the same values, but you're changing it in a way that aligns more and more with you.
Yeah, that sits more comfortably with who you are.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. And, I met you about a year and a bit ago, and I could sense that you could see that I was going through a bit of not an identity crisis, but a bit of a pivot point as to what I really wanted to do in terms of what suited my authenticity, And I spent my life doing, blue chip corporate stuff and deals and all this sort of stuff. But what I really love is the human side of things. That's what I really love. So that's where I've moved a huge amount this year. And I thank you to an extent, Joe. I mean, you kind of helped start that re-examination in me and a few others. So,
but it's interesting because my background is sales and marketing, and it's been sales and marketing for God as long as I can remember, and I'm now realizing it's not sales and marketing. It is, but it is the trust behind it. It is the human value behind it. It is your connection.
Yeah.
And I'm even getting deeper into it now. Is where there's so many people talk about human connection, but they're not willing to make those connections either.
No, exactly.
It's human connection, but they're not willing to go out and meet people. They're not willing to and even getting back into that, I'm understanding now what the key element behind everything is awareness.
I was 100%. It's funny, I just gave a session this morning through ISME to a group of SMEs on, the program was called a deal closing masterclass, right? But afterwards I posted on LinkedIn that there are loads of deal experts, sales experts, and some of them spout on about magic formulas. I guarantee you'll do this if you do that. From my perspective, that's rubbish, right? From my perspective, it's about for me, it's about awareness, it's about resilience, it's about persistence, and it's about, probably above all, self-honesty. If you do all those things, you give yourself the best chance to succeed in a genuine, authentic way. You're not forcing things.
No, it's not. You're pushing, not forcing.
Correct.
And I believe that you need to take action for reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to know what your customer wants and identify. And if you can get them all lined up, and that's the hardest part of any business, is identifying your customer and what they want.
And identifying what you're good at delivering. So for example, this year for me, I'm a qualified coach. I've written stuff. I'm a consultant and I'm a trainer. But this year I'm realizing that what I love most and what I seem to be good at and what seems to be resonating back is the training side of things. I love training groups, right? And it's funny, when you start a group session, they're all there and they look terrified because they're probably thinking, who's this hard-nosed guy who's going to talk to us about magic deal-making formulas and you must do this. And by the end of it, every time now, they can see the human side of things,
Yeah, I do believe that you need a system. And there is a process.
You need a process.
It's like in the sales, when I walked through the sales process with my clients, I talk about contact, categorise, convince, close and complete.
Yeah.
And the reason why I have those 5 C's is so they know exactly where they are in each part of the process.
Yeah.
And a bridge of how to know to jump into the next part of it. So that in a way I call it painting by numbers, selling by numbers.
I agree.
And I use the same sort of principle in the marketing as well. And it makes it very easy because people see it's all can be very complicated.
Yeah.
But it's knowing that, but then stepping out of that.
That's exactly right.
And actually just being yourself and knowing in the back of your mind, going, okay, this is where I am and this is where I need to be. And it's the buzzwords now is unique and authentic and everything, but it drives back to that. It's just awareness of the people around you, everything. We only know 25% of people. There's 75% of people that we don't know.
Yeah.
And always have that element in your mind that this person could be having a bad day or whatever.
You couldn't have put it better. I was thinking exactly the same, and I expressed this morning. So I went about it the hard way, right? So 4 years ago I wrote this, what's called the 7P methodology of deals, and I've written a couple of books on it, and that was great. But looking back, it was all a bit... Now, I needed to do that because I needed to create my own hooks, as you said. You need to have labels for things, right? And I did that. But today... So I use that process in training, but basically I likened it to the wardrobe in Narnia. So you've got the wardrobe. So the process, a bit like you said, the 7 Ps is the wardrobe, right? but you open it and then you walk in,
It's
right?
like my kid's bedroom. It's, oh my God, there's a room in here. Yeah.
And when you walk in there, it's about the human stuff. But I've only just figured that out in the opposite direction, you know?
Yeah, no, I think as you get older, you sort of align with that. But it's like you love teaching,
I love it.
and I've seen you work and seen you, and you're brilliant at that. What I love doing is I love running, events. And not running the event, but I love speaking at events.
Yeah, you're I would say I'm a trainer and maybe influencer. My observation is you're an inspirer and influence. You definitely inspire.
Yeah,
I've seen you at the airfield thing, and that's a real talent.
Yeah,
that's a raw talent.
See me TEDx talk.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's come out now next month, but I love coaching as well. So I love doing.
Yeah.
I'm an executive coach, and I love doing the one-to-ones.
Yeah.
And going through the process and getting them. And what a lot of my clients are saying after it, they feel when they go through, they feel confident about themselves, their product, their business, and everything. And that's where it all evolves. If you feel confident, your marketing will work better. If you feel confident, your sales process will work better. If you feel confident, you'll attract the right type of clients. It's all about that confidence on it.
It is.
Yeah, and there's the secret. But you mentioned your books. I have a manuscript sitting there with notes about my own book, and I've never really been able to finish it.
Yeah.
And the reason because there was an element of it missing. And I was out walking the other day, and I was speaking on the phone. I was speaking to a friend of mine. He says, "Oh yeah, your book, Joe." He says, "Why don't you write it in such a way?" And a penny dropped, and I went, "Oh, okay." So now I'm going to write this book, and it's to do with sales, marketing. It's to do with personal development, but I'm putting a sort of a spin on it instead of a business book. It's going to be really a book about. To do with the TED Talk I did and the radio and the Conscious Business podcast and Breakthrough Brands and this, and it's all sort of morphing into this. It's going to be a short book, but I think it's to inspire.
So is it in summary of your experiences to inspire others? Is that what it is?
No, yes and no. It's making people really be aware. Awareness, it's what it is. Like I'm the title could be "Wake Up and Smell the Coffee." Wake up and be aware, and sort of it's this involvement in it, and it's to do with the Conscious Business Academy, which I've created now as well for those team building days. So it's without me walking this journey, I've kind of gone, oh my God, look where I am, and all these pieces are all connecting
That's exactly
together.
what I've found this year. And today, just for example, today, the last couple of weeks. So this year, I've started meditating. Right, if I'd said that 2 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have cringed. Right, but I've started meditating this year. Initially, I had to force myself because I need to slow down. You've observed that about me, so I'm forcing myself to slow down. And 2 weeks ago, I don't know how I came across it, but I came across this Himalayan meditation tape, right? No word of a lie. This morning when I got home from doing the session, there was a yogi from Himalaya looking at my profile on LinkedIn. Now, it's a different person, right? So I have another guy I work with, and I said to him, "Is this coincidence?" And he said, "Nothing's coincidence. You're just becoming more aware of things."
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah.
And it is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I don't think that happens. I think it comes with age. I do think it comes with age. Unless you've had a trauma at an early age and it provokes you to become more aware.
But getting into the business end, it's understanding better communication. It's understanding better leadership. It's understanding, the internal and external concerns in a business. How do we deal with our customers? How do we offer better customer service? How do we work in each department better and function? There's all these elements that if these are all right, that a company can prosper in a way that they've never have before.
Yeah. So that's what I focus on when I deal with those 4 quadrants: business, leadership, brand, and personal. Is that you can't have a really so I work on through consulting and various programs the various aspects within an organization to help them prosper. I don't by any means say that I've got everything. I'm not I'm not a hot financial guy. I don't really deal with tax. I don't deal with tax stuff. But I look at all the stuff that I'm aware of that contributes to growth. But it's critically important. You can't grow an organisation without trying to grow the people, and vice versa.
Yeah,
you can't.
It's that's where my love for sales, marketing, and leadership comes in. I believe they're the three elements that if a company isn't making, hitting the numbers, get a good salesperson. And if you're not getting leads, get the marketing and have the leadership to run it. Yeah. That's it. And I think 2020 is going to be a great year for a lot of people. Yeah. I think that the country itself is on full employment. Yeah. Which has opened up opportunities for so many as well. I think the Irish now, Brexit, I think people have just gone, okay, if it happens, it happens.
It seems to be fizzling away, doesn't it?
It's because it's January now, isn't it? So it's blowed under the election. That's where it is on that. Yeah. But
there's a huge energy here. There's a real energy. And maybe it's just because I'm becoming more aware, but there does seem to be an awakening. There does seem to be a lot more. I'm hearing a lot more people talking about this stuff.
Yeah, there is. There's more people being consciously aware. Yeah, and it's that collective consciousness as well. And I think it's with the environment and plastic bags, what they're doing to the ocean and all these things are all just triggering people to go. And what one of the other things, so they say, who is they? They is us.
I know.
They is us. They're doing this or we're doing this. We need to make these changes ourselves personally before we can then make them happen in the world.
So for you, for next year, like looking back this time next year, what would a good year feel like to you? How would next year be a good year if you look back on it?
Coming into 2020, I remember writing a list in January of 2019, and I looked at it there and I hit everything. Subconsciously I wrote this list and forgot about it, and I've actually hit everything that I wanted to hit on it. And into 2020, what I'm looking for 2020 is speaking gigs in England and the States, expanding more into America with my coaching business as well, and also then doing large corporate events here in Ireland, which would be corporate training days under the Conscious Business Academy. That's in the mornings. Denise, she'll come in and shake the negativity out of in the morning to a party style, which is great fun. You have to admit.
It's great.
And then the afternoon, I'll be talking more on a serious level. But all the different departments of about how the company can function better as a whole, and then from there we'll look at then if look into doing more coaching with clients and everything as well. So that's where other people like yourself and all will sort of step up onto it. But it's
so you've got the foundations. It's just it's to grow that trajectory next year.
Yeah, that's it.
I'd be similar.
It's it's been a good year. I've been happy. We've all had moments, but that's part of it's the process, and those moments now don't really affect me as much.
I'm similar. Yeah. I'm noticing myself, like when things they seem to go wrong, I'm noticing myself looking at the situation. It doesn't matter how small or big, and just taking a big sigh, or going for a walk, or drive around the block, and it's never as bad as you initially think. It isn't.
No,
it isn't.
It's never as bad, but it's using that. There's two things. You've got your head, so when you're thinking of something and you're making that decision, you can think about it in your mind. Or you can make the decision on a feeling. And some people just make the decision on their mind. But if you make it on a feeling, it changes the dynamics of it, and it can work out a lot better.
Correct. On it. I heard somewhere that my mind is 52 years old, but my gut feeling is about 4 million years old. To go with that, it's as old as mankind. Whether or not that's true or not, I like to fall back on that.
Yeah, no, it is, but it's wait, feel, and then act instead of that just rushing out on it. So, where can people catch this new website of yours when it's
hopefully in the next couple of weeks? It's still the same address, simonhaigh.com, HAIGH.com. or they can just catch me on LinkedIn. I'm active all the time on LinkedIn, but it's simonhaigh.com.
And what's up next week? What are you doing next week?
Next week I'm going to London. I'm presenting on one of the 4 quadrants, brand growth. So using your brand to drive your financial strategy at a conference in London, and then just catching up with family and starting to get into the Christmas spirit over there, and that's that.
An honour. Myself, Tuesday I'm running a peer mastermind group in the Royal Marine Hotel in Dunleary, and if anyone wants tickets for that, it's jdc.ie. And also then on my own website, Joe Dalton, I have created a free online mini video training course on sales and
I've
marketing.
seen that. It looks very good.
So that's on there. That's joedalton.ie, and the mastermind is jdc.ie. So yeah, I'm another week.
Another week.
And who have we got next week?
We've got a guy called Ian McLean,
who
is, I think, from the Flow Consulting Group, I think, from memory. And I don't know who the second guest is.
I think we're going to bring in someone as well.
We'll colour somebody.
We'll get it in.
Yeah.
Folks, thank you for staying on with ourselves on Business Eye. It's another great show with my co-host Simon Haigh, and I look forward to catching you all next Friday. Until then, have a safe week and take care. Bye-bye.